The Chinese Civil War from the 1940s never technically ended. Instead, just one side won and made the People's Republic of China the communist totalitarian state, and the other fled to an island off the coast that's now called Taiwan. And as tensions rise to one of their highest points in history between these two nations, it affects all of us. And I'm going to explain how in the history of how this happened. So in the 1940s, after Japan lost World War II, there was the Civil War in China. The communists won, nationalists fled. Also, business leaders fled, merchants, bankers, a lot of intellectuals and academics fled. They fled to Taiwan, established their own government that continued for a period. Now, there was a dictatorship, martial law, but by the early 90s, Taiwan became an independent democracy. They are free and fair elections, free press to this day. And that's become the central tension point, like the dividing factor, because these are two countries with largely the same ethnicity. Over 90% of mainland China, Han Chinese speak, like the people speak Han Chinese, same thing in Taiwan. The difference is cultural about democracy itself. Now, Taiwan has also preserved a lot more traditional elements, Confucianism, like a religious element, that kind of got curb stomped during Mao Zedong, leader of the Communist Revolution, first leader of modern China. His Cultural Revolution destroyed a lot of that, like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people died because they were insufficiently loyal to the state, and his Red Guard killed them, humiliated millions, sent many to re-education camps. Taiwan, instead, like seeing that, the dictatorship at the time fought to like preserve elements as like continued that's their continued cultural battle. But now the battle is really just about economics and democracy. Taiwan's a democracy, free, fair. So the West naturally wants to protect that. That itself is a slap in the face to mainland China, because the government of China relies very heavily on this idea that like this, Chinese culture, this is not about that. Like it's not for a Western style democracy, which Taiwan is. It has a president, it elects a parliament. That's kind of like why I'm saying Western style democracy, but it's just proof that like the same culture basically has a democracy, so it could take root in mainland China and it would work, because it did work. They don't like that is even like a thought that could happen. Like the People's Republic of China's government doesn't like that. They also just want to end what they refer to as the century of humiliation. That was a period from like 1840s to 1949, when the People's Republic of China started, where China was kind of carved up by foreign powers, and this long continual civilization that had ruled China was not the global superpower that it historically has been. It's historically been one continuous cultural civilization under the same rule. Now that's kind of different than how we view civilization in Western terms, because we have many different countries, and it's not like Western civilization has ever been unified gigantically. I guess like Rome, maybe, but like not really. Like Western civilization has never viewed itself in that way. It's been like many different sovereign nations over time. But China views it as one continuous China. And reunifying China is a very important value for the government of China and for Xi Jinping, the current leader of China, who's like consolidated power, is very nationalist, and rules as an authoritarian leader. He's in his third term as premier, which is more than normally premiers just serve 2 terms, or president of China. I mean, normally they just serve 2 terms. He like extended it and got like really has consolidated power, purged a bunch of military generals in the last few years. Like he's in charge, and he wants Taiwan. He wanted military readiness to invade Taiwan by 2027. That doesn't mean they'll do it next year. They could do it this year. They could do it in 10 years. They just want to be ready. Taiwan wants to avoid that at all costs. So they do 2 things. One, they have porcupine strategy. Taiwan's a little island, very mountainous, jungly. It would be extremely difficult to invade under the best of terms. They want to make it the worst of terms to invade. They have like all kinds of missile defense systems. They're military trained specifically for that kind of guerrilla battle. And they also want to make other countries dependent on them economically, so that the West, NATO, other nations that have an interest in preventing an insurgent China and maintaining the strait that goes through mainland China and Taiwan, like Japan, Philippines, South Korea, they want to make everyone economically need them. So they have strong trade negotiations. They have informal relationships with everyone. Like there's no U.S. embassy or no British embassy no Japanese embassy in Taipei, Taiwan. But we have very strong informal ties, because you don't want to anger China, but you want to leave it strategically ambiguous, because you don't want China to take Taiwan. That would be bad for many reasons. Semiconductors, Taiwan makes like 90% of the world's semiconductors. Those are in like all technology. They're very advanced technologically. And so you want to preserve your ability to get those. That's a national security concern for everyone, not China. And also, these negotiations, these trade dynamics that they have. Japan and Philippines also have an interest because Taiwan, mainland China, the government also claims certain islands in those areas. And it's not that people really think that China has aims to invade beyond Taiwan, but you don't know. It's kind of a similar thing about Putin and Ukraine. Oh, like, you want to take Ukraine, but like, and you say you don't want anything else. Do we believe you? I don't trust you after doing that. But the big divide is democracy, and China is not a democracy at all. No free and fair elections. They've promised past provinces or areas like Macau, Hong Kong, whenever those went back to China, from like Hong Kong was British when it went back to China over a decade ago, they promised one country, two systems. That really upset Taiwanese people when they saw the turnover happen, and it's not two systems. Barely. Like, the Chinese government has cracked down immensely on Hong Kong. They've imprisoned journalists, they've suppressed protests like the Umbrella Revolution, they've meddled with elections, so it's really not. And so Taiwan has become like super radicalized against reunification in China. The rising nationalism in Taiwan, has always existed, but gotten stronger, makes the government of China even more angry. These tensions rise, and then also, now that we are a, technology-based society in the rest of the world, it is vital economically to preserve a semi-independent Taiwan.